And now I'm talking to George Jacob, the Head of Communications for the Gorta Group in Self-Help Africa. George, welcome to the programme.
Hi Darren, good to be talking to you.
Okay, George, I interviewed you for the first time around 2 years ago at the main 2016 Africa Day event in Farmley. Your organisation, Self-Help Africa, had recently merged with another development organisation, Gorta, by then. I believe there has been some major developments in the last 2 years with Self-Help Africa. Could you tell us a bit about them, please?
Sure. Darren, it's been the past couple of years have been a period of growth for the organisation. Part of that is because we are doing kind of work that both the general public and the donor community, that's say governments and trusts and foundations around the world, have recognised as being of importance and value. That's with small-scale farming communities who make up 75 to 80% of the population in poor countries in Africa. Work is focused on making their small farms more profitable and more productive. So as of that, we have had a number of funding successes, like the organisation that I would have joined 13, 14 years ago, which had an annual turnover around €4 million, will this year be turning over something in the order of about 24 million.
So when you joined, you joined Self-Help Africa 13 years ago, was it?
That's right, yeah. That was the organisation. We had our headquarters in Hackettstown in County Carlow. Now we're up in Dublin.
Yeah. Okay. You've had at least two big, huge mergers over the last 2 years. Could you tell us a bit about them, please?
Sure. Yeah. Well. First of all, you mentioned in the intro there that Self-Help Africa merged back in 2014 with Gorta, and Gorta is Ireland's longest established agricultural development charity, and Gorta and Self-Help Africa came together in the summer of 2014. In part, it was by this sense that by kind of working together, we could both deliver efficiencies in how we worked, and we could achieve more of the people that support the two organisations. And more recently, there has been a merger between our organisation and War on Want in Northern Ireland. Now, War on Want Northern Ireland it was a subsidiary of War on Want UK, but in the early 70s, it kind of created its own entity in the north, and War on Want, where there are 13 charity retail shops and other fundraising activities taking place in the 6 counties. They are now branded in the north as Self-Help Africa.
I think it's great the way, I only found out about this merger last night. I think it's great the way you have 13 shops now in Northern Ireland. We can talk a bit about more at the end of the interview. And you have recently kind of changed or rebranded a bit, haven't you? Because you were called Gorta Self-Help Africa in the Republic of Ireland for a couple of years, weren't you?
That's right. Yeah. No, at the time of the merger of Gorta and Self-Help Africa, Gorta was for people of my vintage, it's an organisation that has been a household name for the past 50 years. Gorta was set up by the Department of Agriculture in Ireland at a time in the mid-60s. It was actually when the late Charlie Haughey was then the Minister for Agriculture. It was set up as an Irish response to a UN call to end world hunger. Now, for 20 or so years, kind of Gorta did operate as this like a kind of a semi-state kind of organisation, and then it became an independent charity. And in 2014, the organisation merged with Self-Help Africa. Now, at that time, Gorta didn't have the same kind of presence or footprint in terms of offices or fundraising kind of departments in places like the United States. Self-Help Africa had established offices in New York and in Boston for the purpose of raising institutional funding and public funding. and we had offices in London and in Shropshire in the UK, as well as offices in six different countries in Africa. So at the time of the merger, there was a decision made. The organisation internationally would remain as Self-Help Africa, and that in Ireland, in recognition of the kind of the legacy and the history of Gorta, that it would become Gorta Self-Help Africa in Ireland. Now, what that means is for a relatively small organisation, we ended up with two different names in different markets. And after a long period of kind of examination and review and working with that name, this has taken to transition the organisation in Ireland to the name Self-Help Africa, on the basis in part, I suppose, as well, that the organisation does what it says on it. It's very much an organisation that builds the capacity of rural poor people in Africa to kind of self-help their own way out of poverty, principally through farming and small enterprise development in rural areas.
Yeah, I only heard about Self-Help Africa in the last few years, and I found it remarkable that, like, in Ireland, Gorta was a more well-known name than Self-Help Africa, but in Africa, Self-Help Africa is much more named than Gorta, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I've personally been doing Churchgate collections for Gorta most years since 2004, and I think the news you have about kind of name change is good, because I think Self-Help Africa is a more recognisable and inspiring name in Africa, whatever in Ireland and Africa. It's true to say, though, isn't it, that some people in the organisation on the Gorta side are not happy about the name change because they think that the Gorta name has been swallowed up, when the plan was, before you merged a couple of years ago, for both names to be retained. What would you say to any staff or volunteers who have worked with Gorta who may be listening to this interview?
Well, so as I said to you, Darren, kind of earlier, the decision. There was this transitional name for around 4 years. We did kind of correspond with all of our kind of donor database in Ireland about the change, and we are a membership organisation, and there are 140 members of the organisation, and they were all written to, and we didn't actually receive any kind of negative feedback. A bit like what you said yourself, that it did, the name Self-Help Africa is a kind of aspirational one, and we felt that the longer name, it just was creating a little bit of confusion with people, like what was the organisation, which organisation was it, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, the fact that we are, the principal focus of everything that we're doing is in Africa, where all of our staff are and they're local people, and they have very much over the past 30 years very much embraced the self-help principle of the way the organisation works.
Okay, George. Just talk about the future. Can you tell us a bit about what the Gorta Group is doing in Africa this year, and about how the merger with Gorta and with War on Want has helped you on the ground in Africa?
Well, basically, the organisation, the merger with Want has given us principally the ability to reach more people in the other, in the northern part of this island, and that is beneficial in more people who know what we do and who understand what we do. Hopefully, they will support the mission and vision of the organisation, which is to an Africa that is free from hunger and poverty. Now, in the recent past, in the past year, I mentioned earlier that we have had a number of kind of there has been kind of year-on-year growth in our funding base, which has allowed us to do more work year. And this year we will work with just under 4 million people in kind of 8 different countries. Well, actually 10 different countries with different kind of partner activities that we have taken place, places like Rwanda and Burundi. But the core will be with about 3.8 to 4 million people in 8 countries in Africa. And shortly before Christmas, we were awarded a grant from the European Union that is allowing us to establish 13,500 farmer fields in Malawi. Now, farmer field schools are like community-based. They can be demonstration plots. They can be places where local villagers can go to learn about a new crop variety, to learn about a new planting method, a new form of irrigation, and they're community-led demonstration plots. And it's a scheme that is going to take place over the next 4 or 5 years, and reach almost half of the entire landmass of Malawi, a country of 19 million people and one of the poorest countries in southern Africa. Be focusing on everything from new approaches to climate, like how small-scale farmers can farm in a changing climate, because like rains aren't stable as they were. Like flooding is more problematic. Droughts are more problematic. So what do these people do, and like what crops are more suited to a changing climate, and so on and so forth. So that's one new kind of major new. Yeah.
No, the go on, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, beg your pardon. And then in Kenya, we kind of tendered for and have and are receiving in excess of 20 million euro over the next 5 years to effectively develop the business of agriculture, like agribusiness enterprises. And what that means is right now in Africa, people, as I explained to you, at the beginning, the objective of the organization is to help small-scale farming families to both grow more, but also importantly to earn more. Because, if they want to if people want to send their children to school, if they want to improve the standard of their living, if they want to their living conditions, if they want to provide health to their family, they need money. And so therefore, you need money by selling the produce that you can grow on the small farm. So this venture in Kenya is developing that whole side of the business, so that small scale farming families are, have a route to market, have an outlet where they can sell their produce somewhere other than by the roadside or in the local village market, where sometimes they'll sell, sometimes they won't. And if the goods are, say, perishable, they often go to waste before they even find any market. It's a huge problem in Africa. 40% of all food that is grown wastes, because there isn't access to transport, there isn't access to refrigeration, all of the things we take for granted. We can put a piece of broth in the fridge and open the fridge 4 days later and it's still there. But in countries where people don't have electricity, have proper storage, it's absolutely critical that they can get their produce to market efficient and earn a fair price for it.
We could talk all day about your projects you're working on in Africa. We won't go into any more because we're talking for ages. We're talking about mergers there a few minutes ago. There were 2 other smaller mergers with one, I believe, a social enterprise organisations. I think it's Transdev or something like that, and another one. You want to say a little bit about them?
Yeah, they weren't actually mergers, but they are. So social enterprise businesses that are a part of the Gorta Group organization. I should have explained earlier, and you referred to it yourself, Darren, is that South Africa, along with the social enterprises that form part of the organization, are now in the future operating under the umbrella of an organization called the Gorta Group. Now that's for reasons and the structure of our company. But those organizations, just to answer your question, one of them is called True Trade, and it's based in Uganda. And what True Trade do is they identify from prospective buyers of food commodities. They identify, okay, there's a demand from this brewery that they need X tons of malt barley at a particular time of the year, and then it will go to farmer. It'll negotiate a price, and it will go back to farmers, and it will say, if you grow this product, I can guarantee you this price if you deliver it to this local particular time or date. So what it is doing is it's taking the guesswork out of farming for small scale farmers who live very much on the edge, and they can't if they are guaranteed before they plant for the next crop that they will harvest, it gives them an enormous amount of security and confidence to push that way. So that's what True Trade does. And the interesting thing is, it's focusing on a few things. It's focusing on women farmers and sourcing markets for commodities and crops, food crops that can be grown by women. And interestingly, it makes all of its payments to the farmers that it purchases from by mobile money transfer. That's a concept that's slow coming to the West. But actually, a lot of people don't operate with an awful lot of people, obviously, they do operate with cash. But the whole area of money, of using your mobile phone as a source of payments is much more advanced than it is here, and it's one of the models that True Trade uses. The other subsidiary, very briefly, is called Partner Africa, and what Partner Africa does is it provides training to African companies, a lot of them in the food business area, provides them with training so that they are meeting the standards that are required by Western buyers. By that I mean, things like safety place, like hours of working, ensuring that children aren't working in an industrial farm or whatever the expectations. Western buyers are very discerning. If they hear or read, as they have done in the past, like stories about a big sports conglomerate like a Nike or something, that they're getting children in Indonesia to do X, Y, or Z. People react very negatively to things like that. So the Western companies want to be assured, if they go into the African market, that they know who they're buying from, that the standards are as are expected. And the subsidiary that I'm just talking about, Partner Africa, what they do is they provide training and support to African companies so that they understand what consumers in the West are looking for. And ultimately, the objective is to create markets, to create jobs, to create business opportunities, and in Africa.
Yeah, it's very interesting to listen to you talking about what's going on in the countries you work in Africa. We've been talking about it for a long time. Just last question. You mentioned there about 10 minutes ago the merger with Warren Want. They have, I think it's 13 charity shops they had. You have a range of charity shops now across the island of Ireland. Do you have any plans with these, or is there any other big news regarding your work in Ireland in general?
Not particular. Well, yeah, it's as I said at the beginning, Darren. It's been a busy few years for the organisation. But like the fact that there are 13 shops in the north and there are 11 shops in the south of Ireland means that there are plans that colleagues are drawing up at the moment as to how we manage this kind of effective chain of nationwide kind of retail charity shops, how we can kind of grow the profitability of these businesses. There's always scope, and it is step by step, but it certainly is an exciting time, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to come onto your program and talk about it.
Yeah, thanks, George. I'm delighted that you have all the shops now as well in Ireland. And I presume, I don't think it's happened currently in the Republic of Ireland anyway, but I presume that it'll just have Self-Help Africa on the shops now, will it? Is that going to happen soon?
That's right now. I'm not. I have to confess, hands up on this one, that I don't know what the timeline is, or what the plan is there. The shops in the north that were formerly Warren Want NI shops are in the process right now of being kind of branded as Self-Help Africa. But these things take time, and it could be over a period of 1 or 2 years that the same may happen in the south. Hands up, I have to admit. I do.
That's fine, yeah. Okay, George, it's great talking to you. For the second
Yeah.
time talking, you talked to you Africa Day a couple of years ago, so I'll be talking to you again in the not too distant future. So thanks for coming on the program.
Grant,
Right?
sure we might cross paths at Africa Day again.
Yeah, we probably will. Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Thanks, George.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.